Representative Friese.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to a point of protest pursuant to Rule 20.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm so glad that today we're speaking of security and safety. Safety and security go hand in hand. I asked first privately for clarification of a rule that exempts members to carry weapons on the floor. This is a public building. There is a notice outside that clearly states public buildings, in this public building, weapons should be secured. I asked first privately for clarification. I did not receive it. I then asked publicly by submitting a letter signed by myself and 5 of my colleagues, again, asking for clarification. Are members exempt? I've seen several members carrying their weapons on the floor, and it is certainly the prerogative of the Speaker, who is in charge of this building, to give that exemption. But I believe that if we are to be above the law, it should be very clearly and clarified in writing so that the members know and the public knows that there are weapons on the House floor. So it brings me back to the issue of safety. And Majority Leader mentioned a letter that was signed by a number of our colleagues, also requesting additional security measures. That letter very coincidentally, was circulated on the very day that I submitted my letter to the Speaker's office asking for clarification. Again, I have concerns about guns in my workplace. I have concerns about guns on the floor of the House. And again, asking this time publicly, asking for clarification. And let me tell you why. Thousands of people suffer from unintentional gun injury and death every year. Throughout my career as a trauma surgeon, I have cared for hundreds of people who have unintentionally injured themselves or someone else with their weapon. And I am very pointedly talking about police officers, security guards, NRA members, and experienced gun owners. These are people who are trained in gun safety, and yet they still unintentionally injure themselves or others. Let me also share with the members, since this is an issue that we all should have some concern over and some interest in settling. So I want to share with my fellow colleagues some information about the prevalence of injury, firearm injury, when guns are easily accessible. Certainly, research demonstrates that guns in the home increase risk. Rather than being used for self-defense, guns in the home are 22 times more likely to be involved in accidental shootings. For every 1 time a gun in the home was used in self-defense or legally justifiable shooting, there were 4 unintentional shootings. Research certainly demonstrates that more guns equal more accidental or unintended injuries or deaths. People of all ages, particularly children, let me emphasize that, particularly children, are significantly more likely to die from unintentional firearm injuries when they live in states with more guns relative to states with fewer guns. And I can tell you, I have taken care of these children. I have operated on them emergently and watched them die in front of me when they reach above the coffee table and pull down a loaded weapon, shooting themselves in the chest, shooting their siblings in the abdomen. I have taken care and watched these children die. States with higher gun ownership rates had 9 times the rate of unintentional firearm deaths compared to states with lower gun ownership levels. 8% of unintentional shooting deaths resulted from shots fired by children under the age of 6. American children are 16 times more likely to be killed in unintentional shootings than their peers in other high-income countries. There's a lot more data. There's a whole lot of scientific data supporting the fact when Guns are easily acceptable. People that consider attempting suicide are more likely to be successful. So I just want to say, this is something that concerns me personally. I have asked for clarity. I have asked for clarity privately. I've asked for clarity publicly. Unfortunately, I need to continue to ask for clarity publicly because I am not getting it. I wish to know very clearly, with a directive, are members accepted? Are members above the law? And I will continue to wait patiently and continue to ask for that clarity. And let me finish by also reiterating some polling data that was done in September 30th through October 8th of 2015. 80% of those polled, or a majority of voters, wish for us to have discussions about comprehensive background checks and gun safety legislation. This majority includes support from Republicans, 72%. This majority includes support from gun owners. 83% of gun owners were in favor of us as a legislature having these discussions. And this majority includes support from NRA households. 57% of NRA households wish their state legislatures to have discussions about gun safety. So, in closing, I would like to ask that we, as a group, have the courage, have the Constitution, and have the confidence to discuss the issues that our electorate wishes us to discuss in a public way so that the electorate can participate. We can have a study committee. I introduced a bill this year to create a study committee in order to discuss public safety and violence prevention. That bill did not receive a hearing. That bill did not move forward. We weren't allowed to have public discussion about that concept. I hope that in future sessions we have the dedication, the concern for safety that we're talking about here today, a concern for security and safety. I hope that in future sessions we'll be able to make some move forward on this issue, addressing the concept of gun safety in a very public way through the legislature. So, again, I thank you for your time, and this is an important issue to me and most of my constituents. And as, again, very personally, I have seen the results of unintentional gun injury and gun death. And it is a very difficult thing to do, to tell a young mother that your 5-year-old daughter is deceased because she reached up onto the coffee table and pulled down a weapon that was not secured properly and loaded. It's a very difficult thing to tell a young wife that her husband is now paralyzed from the waist down because while he was cleaning his weapon, he unintentionally shot himself. These things do happen. And they happen to people who are well trained in gun safety. They happen to people who think that it will never happen to them. And the research does show, and I just want to emphasize one more time, the research does show when weapons are in close proximity, the risk of unintentional injury is higher. And we have guns and weapons in close proximity here on the House floor. And once again, I wish to ask for clarification on the exception to the statute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Friese.